Welcome to my channel. I am GDP, and today I am going to talk about the new hero TIX and my initial thoughts on him. So before we get started, let's go ahead and talk about his abilities, starting off with his last passive. His last passive is when self is dead, inflicts the enemy who killed TIX with Revenge Wrath. Revenge Wrath is a skill effect. When a round ends, deals damage by 30% of the target's max HP. When the target is killed, deals damage against all surviving enemies by 30% of their max HP. Each damage dealt by Revenging Wrath won't exceed 2,500% of TIX's attack. Just a couple comments here. Is this passive, technically I don't really care for much. You want your TIX to stay alive. But if your TIX does die and it is killed by a carry, once the carry dies, it will blow off, but once the carry revives, the carry won't have this Revenging Wrath on anymore, so it will go away. It's not like an infinite loop on a carry, and pretty much that's about the only comments I have on it. Is it's not super useful. You want to keep your TIX alive for his other abilities, and it doesn't have an infinite loop on reviving carries. Let's go on to the next passive here. When a round ends, if an enemy has higher attack than self, TIX will exchange his attack with the enemy for one round. The attack difference caps at 300% of TIX's current attack. And then basic attack targets the enemy with the highest attack, dealing 180% of attack damage and extra damage by 600% of the target's attack. In the meantime, reduces the target 40% of attack for 2 rounds. I believe the second part, the basic attack part, is the more important one. When he hits a hero with his basic attack, he will be doing a little bit of extra damage and also reducing their attack by 40%, and that is very, very, very beneficial to kind of neuter a high attack Russell's damage. It can also neuter a Belrain's heals, and also it can also neuter a carry from doing massive damage with the carry DM. So if you hit a carry that, and then that carry does an active and marks a bunch of your heroes with DM, and your heroes have full energy, they will be taking reduced damage because carry's DM mark is directly related to that carry's attack. So you will be gutting carry's damage a little bit off of her active. So it's a Pseudo carry kind of counter, kind of a Pseudo Belrain counter, and Russell counter. That's pretty much what this does. The first portion isn't super important. The attack swap, I don't really care for it too much. You could go with the speed HP build to do that, to utilize that, but I have been liking a speed attack build personally. Then you got this passive ability that just for all the stats, you get 35% HP, 30% crit, control immunity 30%, and speed 60%. And then you also have Soul Explosion. This is the active, deals 800% of attack damage against 4 random enemies, dealing an extra damage by 800% of the target's attack, steals target 25% of attack for 3 rounds, and then has a 50% chance to inflict silence to targets whose energy is no less than 90 for 2 rounds, and has a 50% chance to inflict Horrify to targets whose energy is less than 90 for 2 rounds. If you guys don't know, Silence is a control effect that makes heroes not be able to use their active ability, and Horrify is a control effect so they can't use their basic attack. I think the Horrify portion is the most beneficial when you're going against like a Russell, and the Silence is more beneficial against carries. The reason why I say this is when you silence a Russell will be able, especially if that Russell has a lot of light arrow stacks built up, that Russell is going to just burn a bunch of attacks off of that basic, and and instead of him going in the air, you possibly could have killed him when he was in the air, versus now he's doing a bunch of damage to you with his light arrow. So it can kind of work against you sometimes, but not all the time. The Horrify is really, really good because that way they can't gain energy. The enemy Russell won't be using his light arrows if he does a basic attack. So I believe the Horrify portion of this active skill is more beneficial. And if you just look at that straight up right at the top, 800% of attack plus an extra 800% of the target's attack is massive. Like you can do 10, 15, sometimes 18 million on the active. TIX is also one of the fastest heroes on the field, especially if you have Dark Celestial Island statues. So it's a very, very, very strong active. But the one negative thing that I have noticed about TIX is that he doesn't have a lot of sustain. I mean, as you can see, my build right now, I have full mage right now. I have a speed attack stone with a splendid Rui Scepter. Speed HP is viable. I don't have it right now to test it, but I would love to have a speed HP just to give a little bit more sustainability. But speed attack does work and is really good. I believe holy damage attack or crit will be the best. I don't know what between one of these two is gonna be really, really, really good for the Aspen dungeon. My Aspen dungeon is not open right now. Or actually, I did my Aspen run the other day, so I'm not able to test my Aspen right now. But for PvP, I do believe you're going to want to run him fast and have him the fastest on the field to get all of his damage out on his active, get that CC out, and kind of neuter the enemy team by taking their attack and just stealing it. I have personally been running Rui Scepter's Splendid version on him to get that CC out and help him be the fastest hero on the field. And it also lets him just, burst out with a bunch of active damage. So let's go ahead and go into a few PvP fights. Let's go over my gearing on the heroes that I will be using. I'm going to be using a Russell here with a Splendid AMB, speed attack. Side note with Splendid AMB, if you have more than one Splendid AMB, you could run one on Russ and one on TIX. Splendid AMB with speed attack is actually very viable. However, it kind of exposes your Russ a little bit because that Russ isn't going to be able to take light arrow damage anymore. So just keep that in mind. Splendid AMB is going to be a very good artifact on an attack build TIX. It does work because he does get that anti-ranger tech from the guild tech. But let's go ahead, continue on with his builds here. So we got full ranger here with the Splendid AMB, speed attack, speed enables. I'm going to be running double Rogan here. I got a golden crown here with speed HP, and then a 1-3 split with speed HP and a regular crown. And then I am going to be running a Ignis because I believe Ignis is the best healer. And as I mentioned earlier, TIX does suffer from not having any sort of sustainability. So you're going to want to run an Ignis or Belrain. Ignis is the better option if you're not facing an Amun-Ra. But if you are facing Amun-Ra, you might have to run Belrain. You could get away with an Ignis against an Amun-Ra, but just keep in mind that if that Amun-Ra gets healing curses out, that your Ignis will start killing your own team. So 2-2 split here, speed HP, running a golden crown here with an HP build. So that is my entire team. So let's go ahead and go into some fights here. So first off, let's fight this guy right here. He's one of the bigger whales on my server. He has a Splendid AMB onto one of his Garudas, so it can be a pain in the butt to go against. So let's go ahead, put in the second Rogan here. I am going to run TIX into the second slot here with Ignis in the third slot, so if TIX gets energy stolen and Ignis does not, she will be able to feed energy into the TIX, so the TIX can use an active into the next round. So right there, TIX is the fastest on the field. He is stealing his attack from that Garuda right there, so that Garuda's not going to be able to do a bunch of damage if the Garuda gets an active off. And then Ignis right there just healed up all the damage that my Russell and TIX just took. So these Garudas are probably going to get an active off now. Should be able to survive it, because Ignis does provide damage reduction, and I also stole some attack from that Garuda. So TIX is low. He looks like he might be able to get an active off next round. Yes, he will. So that we'll be able to kind of show the active right here. Boom. A lot of damage coming from the TIX, and then also followed by the Russell's active. And this team basically has no chance to win anymore. Let's go ahead and look at the damage charts. 32 million, a lot of damage. Obviously, Russell is going to be doing a lot because of his active and all of his light arrows. Russell is still a very, very good hero. I believe Russell is probably one of the best heroes in PvP in the meta right now. TIX is definitely up there. We do get a dove out onto my Rogan. Looks like we're going to get a TIX active in the second round, and look at that, a lot of damage coming out. He does get doved up right now, but we are going to sustain and kind of heal back up. Stealing energy from that Garuda once again, or not energy, attack. And Ignis is just sustaining my team, and his team can't really do anything to me right now. And then boom, getting clapped by TIX's active. Ignis did die, gave him energy. He's able to do his active once again. And as I was talking about earlier, that Horrify, that carry is not going to be able to gain energy right now because of that Horrify. So that carry is basically doing nothing right now and just died. So we are going to have to do something about that Garuda here, because that Garuda active is probably going to hurt. Yeah, there we go. We do get in the air. TIX goes down. It looks like this is actually a loss right here. Oh, maybe not. That Russell is doing his job there. TIX, look at that. TIX did his 90 million damage there because he got 2 actives off really early on. Let's just skip this one. Another victory here. Once again, Russell just showing off right there. TIX doing 25 million. Probably didn't get too many actives off. Let's go ahead and go against Stella here, who has a couple Russells. So we just stole energy attack from that Belrain, so that Belrain is not going to be able to heal as much. It looks like he's going to have 2 Russells go in the air. Oh wait, that must have been a visual bug, because that Russell did not go in the air, even though it looked like he was about to. And look at that. That TIX just clapped the heck out of that Russell right there. A lot of damage coming from that TIX on that active. And then Rogan finishing off that one. And then TIX is targeting that Rogan right there. And then we're just getting -1s from that active. TIX is going to have an active off. He's probably going to clap this Russell right here. Boom, 9 million, and then followed by 26 million by the Russell. So this is probably going to be pretty good damage by the TIX. Look at that, leading in the damage charge, 76.9 million. Let's go ahead and go into another fight against Stella. So this probably be my last fight, and then I'm going to kind of show you guys my my final thoughts on TIX. Actually, I'll probably talk about them right now. Ooh, like that's a big damage right there from TIX. TIX, I believe, is going to be a solid S tier hero. He's going to get died right here. So that last passive is going onto that Russell right now in the 6th slot. We might lose this one. Our Ignis is going down. But I do think that TIX belongs in the S tier from my initial assessment. He does need to get followed up by a healer, so keep that in mind. If you run a TIX, you are going to need a healer, and he does massive amount of damage. He's able to control the team through his CC and his active. And if he does die, he does kind of have that safety net with whatever hero does kill him, he can mark them with his last passive. They'll be taking 30% of their max HP each round, capped by 2,500% of his attack, which I don't think you're going to ever hit. And then he's just going to be able to, once that hero dies, they're going to explode off the rest of the team and take a bunch of damage as well. But as I said earlier, that last passive isn't going to be the most beneficial. It's basically his active and basic, mostly his active that you want. That's why I like to combo him with Ignis if you can run Ignis. That way the Ignis can feed him energy. And look at that, he's just clapping them right there. And so yeah, so I think he's going to be a very, very good fit for endgame compositions. I do think a double TIX will be viable. I think I'm considering building it. I'm not really sure. I don't really want to spend my heroic scrolls because I want to kind of save them for next month. But I do kind of want to build a double TIX eventually. I do think it will be beneficial. But yeah, so thanks for watching today's video. We'll finish out this fight, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.